tap into your most original thinking, organize your ideas, and create the opportunities to launch your creative work. Unlocking your world of creativity with best-selling author and brand innovator, Mark Stinson.
Welcome back to our podcast, friends. And today our global travels, virtually anyway, take us to New York City. And we're talking with R&B recording artist and performer, Alaura Lovelight. Alaura, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
And you know, this idea of music, of course, the creativity, but we always underscore the part of our podcast, the unlocking part.
Yeah, I love that.
Again, the confidence, the connections, all the production to get the work out into the world.
Yes.
And that's really a big part of what you do, isn't it?
Yes, definitely. There's a lot of unlocking that goes on, and having an idea or being a good singer is great, but that's about 7%.
That's a good start. Yeah. Well, Alaura has a terrific debut single that was released just last year. It's called Eroticy. And let's take a listen.
I would like to get to know you. Like my television, I remote control you. If you're lucky, I'll indulge you. Like my Gucci shades, you'll see what I could show you. Eroticy, so my ecstasy, my fantasy. Come marry me. Eroticy, synergy.
Well, Laura, love the beat of it. It's really been described as a pop R&B kind of a club sound. If you listen to it, I've also read that you're really trying to communicate a confidence in that song too, a confidence, a self-love.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, with the song Eroticy, it was important to me to make a song that was upbeat and fun, and I wanted it to be creative, but I wanted it to have a feel of sexy and confident and empowered. And when I see everybody listening to it or singing along, that's totally the vibe that I see and I get, and that's exactly what I was going for. So I'm so pleased with the way the single is going and the way that people are receiving it. That is always my intention, to kind of empower people and make people feel better about themselves,
Yeah. And as the song was developing, I guess both, the lyrics and music, but also, as we've discussed, the production part of it, were you gaining more and more confidence? Was there a role to it that was building?
Yeah, that's funny that you say that. I just was working on a promo video last night with some of my team, and we were joking because we had like a card with a whole bunch of footage and content on it. And we had done a preliminary commercial type thing for Eroticy way before we put the video out, and we never even put the commercial out, but we were kind of laughing about how important doing that was for me to just kind of get in the swing of the video and direction and having a director and angles, and all of that goes into it. And if you haven't done it before, you really don't realize, how important. There's so many things to think about. So definitely we've put a lot of content together, but not all of it makes the cut.
That's exactly right. Well, and you were talking about collaborators and contributors. You've had a chance to work alongside Grammy Award-winning producers and a lot of other Billboard listed artists. What is it like when you have to, it's your baby, it's your music, but you do want to draw from the experience of these other people though, right?
Yeah. And you know what? That's such a important question for artists to understand, because there's a really kind of gray area type sweet spot about, you want to hold fast to your creation, your art and your creativity. And you want to say, this is the vision that I have. And that's valuable because only you can have, a specific vision for your art. But then on the other side of things, taking constructive criticism or notes or ideas from people who are well-versed in the industry. I have some amazing people around me. So it's really, if I want to get to a certain place, it's to my advantage to take their advice and kind of work with my ideas and my creation, but go with what they're telling me and put them both together.
Yeah, that's so interesting how to reconcile that. Because I mean, on this show, we've talked to authors, we've talked to children's book writers and illustrators, and we've talked to painters and, all points in between. And it's always that fine line, like you said. It's like, I want to own my work. It's my work, quote unquote. But you'll never get out in the world without these other people. And taking that constructive criticism and even edits, it can be hard sometimes, can't it?
Yeah, it definitely is something I think that is hard to do as an artist, because you're right. It's like, that's your baby. And, what do you mean sing it different, or sing it, or like stand like this, or do this, or, it's like, wait a second. But then you have to kind of take into account who is telling you advice or idea, if it's the random person who has never had any experience, okay, well, we take that with a grain of salt. But if it's somebody who really knows, like a Billboard artist or like a Grammy producer, then it's my job to say, okay, they know better than me. Yeah.
And you can learn and grow from that.
Right. Yes. And that's the point, right? We want to be better. We want to grow and all that.
Yeah. Alaura, tell us about a new single just being released.
Yeah, the next single that we're going to do is called Royalty. And I'm excited about releasing it. It's kind of the same vibe as Eroticy, but we bumped it up a little bit. We bumped it up a notch. So it's still totally in the category of fun, sexy, empowerment, all of that. I'm very excited about that too.
Yeah. I always love this word vibe, because it's sort of like, it when you feel it, you know it when you hear it. What did you know that this was the vibe you were looking for in this song?
Yeah, that's a cool question. I feel like that's the vibe that I want to present as an artist overall. So like for myself, it took me a long time to get to a place where I did feel empowered. I did feel comfortable on the stage, on camera, on all of those things that I love, but I had to find the confidence, within myself to do it, which a lot of people don't find that, maybe ever. And so that's a really important thing for me to bring to the table as a woman, as an artist, as a singer, as a writer, as somebody who has formerly felt that level of not feeling super confident, not feeling all that beautiful, not feeling put together, and saying to women anywhere, it doesn't matter. Anything about you on the outside really doesn't matter. You can find this level of love and empowerment. I think that's why people love Beyonce so much, is because she exudes this vibe of, her. There's a difference between confidence and arrogance, right? The difference is that confidence is not me saying I'm better than you. It's just me saying I'm great. And I think that that's a really important thing to portray for me as an artist. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, and you mentioned how that great description of vibe. For one thing, and because you brought it up, I'll ask you about it. I mean, I wouldn't probe, but did this really come from the inside out?
Yes.
Because some people you do look at in the music business, especially, and say, okay, that's a great brand. Right. If I really knew them as a person. But do you feel that you have grown personally into this more confident artist and individual and woman?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's been a fun, hard, but good journey of finding myself. And I think that naturally, as an artist and as a writer, has poured over into my art, is this finding of myself. And I think that it's so relatable because everybody's finding themselves, right? No matter if we're 20 or 30 or 40 or 50, we're all rediscovering what we love and what's important to us and what we value, giving ourselves that love and making time for ourselves. So I think that's totally the brand that I want to create and represent. And it has been a journey of transformation from the inside out. I have gone through a major transformation from the time that, I was 13, 14, very shy, very kind of quiet. I was like the girl who could sing. That's kind of what my thing was. But, I wasn't like going to parties and I wasn't like the cheerleader and that wasn't, my MO, but I grew into finding myself and my value in my art and my music and myself as a woman, all of that was something that was a journey. And I think we all deal with that. So that's where, my music comes from, a place of that. And I think people receive it so well because everybody can identify with wanting to feel confident and empowered and being somewhere on the journey, whether they're like, yeah, I got it, or they're like, oh, that makes me feel like I could get there.
Still a work in progress.
Yeah.
Love that. Thanks for sharing. Well, I guess with that, I'd love to turn the page to some of your other work, and that is teaching and empowering young people who do want to sing and perform. I'd love to hear more about the programs and the work that you have for them.
Yeah, of course. I started a program called Unseen to Queen, and that is a program for teen girls. And it's kind of a passion project of mine. It's something I ended up doing because, I had a few young girls kind of ask me, will you work with me? Will you coach me? And so I ended up doing that. And as I met them and as I got to know them, I was like, these girls are just like me, they're just like I was. And when you're in that space as somebody who's shy or insecure, or you're like, nobody gets it, nobody knows, this is terrible, and I feel so sad or alone or whatever. And it's like, wow, they're just like I was at that age, really shy, kind of, not sure of themselves. And they're changing into a woman at this time in life, but they love music. And I find that, they talk to me about their school day and they'll talk to me about what's going on. But I see that when they sing and when they perform, it's like it opens this part of them that is really the true them that I never really understood, is that like, that's who I really was. And I'm like, wow, I can help these girls figure it out about 10 years earlier.
There you go.
So,
it's so interesting the way you
it.
describe that's the real them, not the alter ego.
Yes.
That it's not somebody, wow, where did that come from? It's
right.
like, no, that's really what's inside me.
Right. Absolutely. And it's fun. It's fun to watch. Like, people ask a lot about my coaching techniques and about, and it's like, honestly, I really don't of course, like, I'm a professional singer and I am a professional performer. So yes, I have techniques and tips that I teach them, but it really goes back. It's a lot less about music and it's a lot more about feeling like I deserve to hold this space on stage in life. And, they use these tools to say, I have a presentation at school this week. And they go from feeling like they don't even want to be in front of a classroom to this performance technique they add to life skills. It's cool. I love watching it. It's neat to be a part of, because I hold the space for them and they find it themselves. Because like we said, that's truly who they are.
Yeah. What insight can the rest of us I'll call us creative supporters of these young girls? Because I think about my daughters. I think about now my granddaughters, who you're describing this, and I'm having this, like, I can see that scene. We're having this conversation. Right. But what can we learn from those interactions that we can better support those unseen queens, as you described them?
That's such a beautiful question. And I think that, like, for myself, what I find to be the best thing for me is it's really important to me that they feel seen and they feel heard. And that's why the course is called Unseen to Young Queen, because I think one of the most powerful things that I can do for them, or we can do for them as their parents, as their teachers, as their guardians, all of that is to make them feel like they are what is the value. Not their hair, not their look, not their comparison to Susie, who's the cheerleader at school. They have the value. And just giving them that space to say, you're a queen, just because you're you. Just because you're you. And letting them discover that themselves. Because I know more than anybody that you can't tell one of these young girls, like, you're pretty, feel that way. It's like,
I just told you were. What else do you want?
Right. It doesn't work like that. But if we hold space for them to find it themselves. Yeah.
Well, let's continue this thought, because you also coach musicians. And I've watched a lot of your videos on really the business side of music. And I love your posts about if you think you need an agent or if you think you need X, Y, and Z to be successful, here's some real truth.
Okay.
What's been your experience in this regard?
Yeah, before I was kind of a recording artist, so to speak, I was playing little clubs, jazz bars, different events like that. And I made a very successful career for myself doing it. And I think a lot of people don't realize, we all like create these fake self limits, right? Of like, I can't do this because, and it's like, well, that's not true. So common feedback that I hear from musicians is they feel like they can't do it because, oh, I don't have a big social media following. Not true. They think, oh, I need somebody who does the booking for me. Also not true. And they think, oh, I need, to have $5,000 of keyboards and this and that. Also not true. And I think that like you can actually go to a place, and if you play an instrument, I play the piano. So you can go somewhere, and I would go with my piano. And I always had a business mindset about it, which is why I think I was able to make that a full-time thing. That's, the last time when I was doing that is when I transitioned into like doing music full-time. A lot of people think, oh, I just go and I could go to an open mic and maybe they'll book me because I'm good, which is true. But if you want to make a career out of it, there are really important strategies. Like you do have to have a business mindset. You do have to say, okay, is it productive or is it business savvy of me to play a gig for $500 when I have and then go spend $700 at Guitar Center to pay for my gear? And it's like, well, wait, that's backwards.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do it strategically.
If I'm looking at the profit and loss there, that's on the wrong end of it.
Right. And I think a lot of people like don't kind of view it from a business mindset, right? It's like, oh, I played a gig at a bar. And it's like, okay, but what are your numbers like? If you want to make that your career, if you want to make that your income, if you're doing it as like your extra side thing for fun and you get free beer and chips, like, cool, that's great. But for people who are like, I really want to do that full time, but I don't know how to, the reason I got into it was because I went to see a friend of mine play at a local like bar, and he was telling me how much money he was making for the show. And I thought, I made that much money this week working a 40-hour week. And I'm a musician. Like I can do that. And so I think that was a big switch for me to be like, wow, he's here for 3 hours. He's playing music, doing what he loves. And he made as much money as I did this week. Mm-hmm. I was like, I got to figure that out.
Yes.
So.
Well, and that's a whole blend. I mean, you're stirring this whole gumbo now. We've gone to the music and we've gone to empowerment of young girls and talent. Now we're talking about the business. You stir all that together and you say, you do have to have some confidence that what you're doing is the right thing for you.
Yes, you do. But you know what? It took me like, this is really fun for me. And I love to get to do interviews and stuff because I like to talk about the process. And you don't, on a stage or on a performance, like they're there for music. They don't want to have a conversation. So that's why we do this. But there's 8 or 9 years behind this. Like we're talking about the courses, we're talking about performance, we're talking about, a hit single. There's years and years behind music that it didn't take off, shows that I didn't make money on because I wasn't business savvy, all of those things. Being an artist, it sounds so cliche about like, don't give up, right? But it's like, you have to make those mistakes to, somebody just messaged me today and they were like, an old friend, and said, wow, you're doing so great. And I said, yeah, I finally figured out what works and what doesn't work.
Yes. And let's do more of what works.
Yeah, right.
Well, this is why, I have heard that in all walks of creative life.
Sure.
You've got to pay your dues. It's going to take time. You'll make mistakes, but you're also describing, you got to maybe make some of your own stubbing of your toe. Yeah. But there are formulas out there that if you did sort of wake up and get it early, You don't
Yes.
have to wait years and years.
Well, and that's why I love these courses that I was able to kind of sit down and create, because there are questions that people ask me a lot anyway, and often. So it's like with the girls, I didn't even realize until I started coaching young girls. I was like, I can't believe that I never had a female mentor ever. God, how important. Like, that's kind of a huge
That would
missing
be a
piece.
big deal. Yes.
Yeah. And it's like, the music industry is a male dominated industry. There's a lot more men in the industry than women. And so I think that, wow, I didn't even have that realization that I needed that until I became that for somebody else. And it's like, hey, I love working with these kids and these girls because, like I said, let's talk about these things 10 years before, when you're 13 and not 23.
Yes.
And then same thing for musicians, is that a lot of people kind of fumble their way through of how to make money, and people don't even know there's strategies about how you take a break, there's strategies about how you play a show, there's strategies about how you do your set list. Like, people kind of just jump into that and they wonder, well, why am I not elevating from here? And it's like, well, you're not implementing tips and strategies and money, things like that will get you to the next level. And if you want, I can help you.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, before we close, Alaura, I just want to let the listeners know where to find you and follow your work. My guest has been Alaura Lovelight. She is an R&B singer and songwriter, and as we've heard, producer, published writer, and also a CEO. So you can follow her work on @Alaura Lovelight on all the social media platforms. And her new single is Eroticy. And you can find the business side of things and the coaching and the classes at www.lovelightsoundmusic.com.
Right.
Well, Alaura, what's ahead for you? What's next? What's in your creative sort of crystal ball?
Oh my gosh, so many things. I feel like the more things manifest, the more like I feel open-minded about what can, like, it's really limitless possibilities, and it's us who thinks, well, I just want to get to here. And it's like, well, then you get to here and you're like, well, but actually I could do this, this, and this. So I'm excited to watch the courses grow and work with people who love music. I love music and I love people. So that's a perfect thing for me. I'm really excited for more music. I'm excited that COVID has finally kind of subsided, hopefully. And, live shows are definitely in the future this year, a tour, fall, and definitely a whole record. So, yeah.
Well, keep us posted on those dates, and we'll be sure to share them out there.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me.
You bet. Thanks to Alaura Lovelight for being my guest. And thank you, listeners, for coming by. I hope you're gaining this kind of creative inspiration and motivation for your own work, and gaining the confidence and connections to get your work out into the world. That's our purpose here on our podcast. I'm Mark Stinson, and we're unlocking your world of creativity. I leave you with a little more of Alaura's music. We'll see you next time.
Touch my hand so I would know how you would hold me. You could be my one and only. Expeditious, so ambitious, I'm a trophy. Eroticy, you're my ecstasy, my fantasy. Come marry me. Eroticy, synergy is my
Unlocking your world of creativity with best-selling author and brand innovator Mark Stinson. This program was produced by BSB Media, creators of IntelliKey Leadership Stories, Unlocking Your World of Creativity, and thepeaceroom.love.
Hey, it's Alaura Lovelight. And if you're enjoying Unlock Your World of Creativity, make sure to check out my new show, The Alaura Show, on Roku and Amazon Fire TV.